PlayStation believes in great games.
Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you are well. Welcome to Cross Button VR, a beginner's journey in the world of PSVR2, a show for those who want to share in our newcomers' enthusiasm. I'm your host, Laurie, and I'm joined once again by my fellow VR virgins, Ben and Alex. How are you, chaps?
Hello.
Hello.
Very good.
Good.
Very well.
Excellent. Now, before we get started with the show, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are part of the Cross Players. So if anyone likes what we are doing, please do check out the rest of the Cross Players content. Please check out our Discord, our Patreon at crossplayers. Patreon.com/the crossplayers. Check out us on Twitter at the crossplayers or at crossbuttonvr. Yeah, please do just get involved because we love it to hear from people. We love it when people engage with us and people love joining in with all the fun.
Love it.
Yep. Right now, so today we were just got a quite special episode today, isn't it, chaps?
It is special.
Because we have just sat down with none other than Jörg Tittel, who has got not one but two PSVR2 games coming out in development, both C-Smash VRS and The Last Worker. And he was very kind to give us just over 45 minutes of his time just to tell us about those games and his thoughts in VR development in general. And it's an absolutely fascinating conversation. So I hope everyone's got time to go and make themselves a cup of tea and put their feet up and listen to what's a really interesting discussion.
The Last Worker is it's the story of the last human worker in a near future fulfillment center the size of Manhattan, and in the game in VR, which is the ultimate way of playing the game, you are inside the body and inside the mind, inside the head of this last human worker, Kurt, played by Olafur Dari Olafsson, one of the finest actors out there. And Jason Isaacs is in the cast, and Zelda Williams, and Claire Hope Asherty, and David Hewlett, and Tommy Earl Jenkins from The Stranding, and all these amazing people. And it is a true sort of first-person narrative game, and I believe it might be the only one really that does that in VR. Because it's strange. It's like when VR was first announced as becoming a sort of consumer property thing. I thought to myself, well, shit, we're going to see so many cool narrative-driven games in VR. And like, guys, you mentioned like your top 3 narrative games in VR.
Well, we're all newcomers to VR. So the only one I've got is Before Your Eyes, which I played last week. And that's the only narrative game I've played in VR. It was done extremely well. And it kind of did open our eyes to how that can be used for that style of game, because I think previously I'd always thought VR is almost kind of an arcadey thing first and foremost, where you're shooting, you're acting out, you're dancing, whatever it might be. But to see a story pan out before your eyes was amazing. So I can totally see.
What is Before Your Eyes? I mean, how does that play?
Alex, do you want to take this one because you played it?
2
days ago, as opposed to a week ago.
It's a short story telling the life of a child who, and every time it uses the eye tracking within the PSVR2 to every time you blink, it moves forward within the story, moves on to the next time, and it's telling you. And it's quite a sad story around the life, and I don't want to say too much because Laurie hasn't played it yet. I don't want to spoil it for him.
Not yet.
But it's kind of.
Okay, but you're smiling. Like, just to your listener, he just said it's a sad story, but he's smiling.
It's a sad story told in.
He's kind of a sadistic person.
He's a sadistic fuck. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
It's a Scottish thing.
Something is wrong with you.
Scottish thing.
Okay, nothing's wrong with you. It's Scottish. I understand.
we really revel in the misery of everyone else. Like, that's it.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But Jörg, I see what you're saying about how VR gives you that chance to play that role, and you're the lead actor in a story, and you're absolutely right. There hasn't been a whole range of experiences that do that yet.
There isn't. I mean, because even when I hear how Before Your Eyes plays out before one's eyes, it's you look at there's been quite a lot of sort of walking simulators also On PC, there was this really, really cool game. What was it called? Shit, something with a V. Was it with a V? It was this game where you basically just it was sort of like a David Lynchian kind of first-person game. Do you know which one I mean? That one? No.
I know the one.
Yeah.
Can't think of the name.
It was really good, and it was like no dialogue in it, and it felt a bit like a sort of David Lynch thing. It was really cool. But I mean, there's no gameplay at all. You just sort of turn the camera around and then walk to the door and then walk to the next thing, and then the door sort of acted almost like portals into the next sort of weird sort of continuation of the story. And it was fun. It was fun to do. But and even when you go to VR festivals, even at the Venice Film Festival, where The Last Worker was the only game in competition, everything else was like 360 video stuff. And I don't want to do 360 video. Like, yeah, it's just I'm not interested. The thing to me is that it's not a screen that I get to tilt, move around. I want to be a whole body inside of this stuff, right? And because if I just want to have a screen in front of me, I'll either watch a movie and feel immersed in that, or I'll read a book, because then at least I can take my imagination places, and I'm not getting it prescribed by sort of subpar graphics, which is mostly the case in VR. And so that's interesting. It's interesting. It surprises me that people haven't attempted it, but then at the same time, it doesn't, because it is extremely hard.
I was just going to ask, do you see this as the start of a trend then? Are there other developers that you're aware of that are embarking on a similar madness to yourself?
I mean, I already know what I'm making next, and it's going to be the most ambitious narrative title ever made in any interactive medium, for sure. And with an incredible team of narrative designers and stuff, it's going to be insane. But to me, I've worked in theater, I've worked in film, I've written graphic novels and stuff, and it's like, to me, like, VR combines all of these things into one, and I find it's the ultimate art form, VR, for me. So it's like it's the ultimate experience. It's like there's no pure sort of combination of all the living, breathing, existing art forms than this. It's physical, it's immersive, it's present, it's literary. You've got surround sound. You can do everything within this, and so it's genius. It's fucking incredible. But no one is approaching it from that point of view where they want it to be the total art form. It's still and that surprises me. But at the same time, I understand that people go like, they're afraid because, like, how are you going to invest so much money into a game, that has a limited sort of user base? But you go like, I just released a game on Playdate, right?
Yeah, we saw that.
Which is stupid business move, because there's 20,000 of those out there. Yeah. But I also set out to make one of the must-have games on Playdate, right? And if you make a must-have thing on a device that has fewer, users, then you're more likely to get noticed, first of all. Yeah. And I'm all about attention. No, but you have less noise, right? There's less noise. And
I guess from a business perspective, we were going to get onto this point. It's almost like you're dealing you can be a bigger fish in a much smaller pond with VR, right? Because it is kind of in its infancy still, and people are still testing the waters.
I'm more of a fisherman. I just I just take all the fish.
Take all the fish, whatever the pond.
Are we the fish in this?
I fish like
I don't want to be a fish.
I fish the way Saddam would fish. I just like go in a boat and throw grenades in the water.
That sounds good to me.
But
that would make a great game.
Yeah, in VR as well.
Fishing with Saddam VR.
That's the next game. That's it.
Yeah, yes. That's when you know that it's not in its infancy anymore. We've reached that level where people are just throwing any.
I love that. This is really good. It's like yeah.
Brilliant. All right. As long as we get a cut of that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. This is where it starts. But
you were talking about the sort of the possibilities and the sort of future-facing possibilities that VR and PSVR2 and all its fancy features brings to the table. Mm-hmm. There is also something quite like, and we are all noobs but to me, it feels quite like a throwback to arcade days as well, because something about the immersion of just being in an experience, and then immediately, you can sort of 30 minutes later, you can jump into another experience.
You read my tweet, didn't you, 2 days ago?
Completely. I didn't actually. What was the tweet?
No.
Did you tweet that?
Yeah, I did. No, I guess I said, was it just because there was a friend of mine, John Anderson, he sent this tweet out about this video, incredible archival footage of a Sega arcade from, I believe, 1994 or something like that. And amazing games in there. And you could see all these, like, there's a kid who's like, and this father is sort of standing there going, okay. And he's holding this gun, and he's like cocking it by just like basically cocking it by the side of his body and holding it up to, like, I don't know, it was like Point Blank or one of those games. And then you have a racing game here and a sort of Sega fucking totally sort of fully immersive thing with pneumatic sort of sides or whatever. And it was incredible to watch, because you could see in this footage that video games started as a physical and a social medium.
Mm-hmm.
We've completely forgotten this, because these tech assholes, these big tech assholes who pretend that they've invented everything, right? Whether it's like Palmer Luckey or, Musk and whatnot. I'm not going to mention too many names. I'm going to get sued. But they pretend that they own technology and that they fucking came up with all this stuff. It's like, no, actually, like if I can actually name one company that came up with all of it, it's pretty much Sega. It is. It's like when I sat down in an Outrun cabinet in 1986 in Brussels, I was at a fun fair. Like they fucking loaded an Outrun full cabinet on a truck, and then would sort of like remove it and put it into a tent. And then I sat down in this as an 8-year-old. My feet could barely reach the pedals, right? And I sat down in this thing, and it was just incredible. Like I was moving left and right as I was turning. That screen seemed to be wrapped all around me. Yes. The speakers were wrapped around me because they were just, it was 3D sound. It was fully immersive. I was sitting inside the VR headset, right?
Yeah, it's virtual reality.
It was virtual reality.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it was the same with Space Harrier. Do you remember that cabinet where
absolutely,
it was, you'd be sort of moving
and
up
R360
and
all the incredible things. And they had actual VR cabinets as well, like in the 90s, Sega. Actually, in 1993 at CES, at the CES convention in Vegas, Sega unveiled a VR headset, Sega VR, which was powered or underpowered probably by the Genesis or the Mega Drive. And it was going to cost $200. And then probably some kid vomited or something in front of one of the executives. And they were like, oh, we can't do that, guys. So Sega of America killed it. Actually challenged Tom Kalinske, the then president, about it. And he's like, yeah, well, the Genesis wasn't ready. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, do you think the Quest 1 was ready? Like, was the first Atari ready for 3D? No, who gives a shit, right? I mean, it's weird, because when you imagine an alternate reality in which Sega had decided, you know what? Yeah, we're releasing this thing. How cool would that be?
Very cool.
That would be cool. Because virtual racing, VR, it's called virtual racing. That was in development for the Sega VR headset.
Oh, such a good game as well. Even Pancake version is just classic, isn't it?
The best.
Oh, dear. I mean, you've got an obvious love for the Mad Bastards from Sega, because, pioneers that they were. And obviously I think that probably leads quite nicely into your other project, a demo of which is releasing this month on the 23rd of March, I believe, and that's C-Smash VRS.
Yes.
Now that is described as a reimagining of the cult classic Cosmic Smash. Again, Sega, I'm assuming, you had to have some sort of conversation with them to get that off the ground.
I stole it.
Just completely stole it. Actually, on
Sneaked
that,
in one night.
is the orange logo, is that the exact same orange as the Dreamcast Japanese logo? So I was looking at it, I was like, that almost looks exactly the same color.
Almost. We have had a team of 60 color engineers.
Justified.
Why are you laughing?
But hey, that's
you don't think I take my job seriously?
I really do. But no, that whole the look of it immediately puts you back into a Dreamcast sort of frame of mind.
Yeah, I mean the original Cosmic Smash very much had orange at its core. It would literally shine through that sort of transparent DVD case that it came in 5 months after the Dreamcast was discontinued. It was sort of like the sort of phoenix rising from me out of the ashes. And I was a game journalist at the time, and I still do write for game magazines occasionally now because I freaking love it, because it relaxes me to talk about other people's work for a change. But yeah, I was writing for Famitsu at the time occasionally, and I just interviewed Yoshitaka Amano about his work because he had a studio in New York. So I got this incredible opportunity to visit Amano-san in his studio in New York, and he was doing all these incredible illustrations for Final Fantasy and stuff there. And I was actually working with Neil Gaiman at the time on stuff. And anyway, so I was in the studio, and when they published that interview that I'd done with him, which was then translated into Japanese, and none of the words I'd written I could no longer read, in that same magazine, I was struck by this screenshot of this incredibly fresh-looking thing. And it said Cosmic Smash, and it said the Dreamcast, and it said Naomi in there, and that's all I could, ascertain from those were the sort of English letters in there, Western letters, so to speak. And then I dug into it deeper, and that game was just around the corner. And when it came out, I loved it, and it felt pure, but it felt like it was both harkening back to the sort of beginnings of games, which were Pong and Breakout, indeed, and the idea of hitting something at the right angle and having fun with it. But at the same time also being incredibly future-facing, because it had taken it into 3D, and it was a sort of it was also an act of rebellion against all of the sort of 3D, super textured, sort of real-time lighting, other nonsense noise, essentially, that was starting to erupt in the console world at the time. It was just saying, "Fuck you! No, I'm going to be pure. I'm going to be about design. I'm going to be reduced. I'm going to be essential."
It's amazing how games with that design aesthetic have held up so much better as well now. Like C-Smash, Cosmic Smash still looks good. Res still looks amazing, and yet some of the other games from that era just look like you've gone too far with it.
Listen, even AAA games today require an HD remake every 5 months. I mean, it's true. I mean, yes, it's a source of income, sure, for the companies that are risk averse, blah blah blah, but they do age very quickly. So the ironically, the more you pursue realism, the faster you age, because it requires a real lack of imagination to be real. But you're always rubbing up against the limitations of tech when you do so. Whereas when you go for style, it's hard work, because it feels risky to be original and to look different. But at the same time, in a world where we have endless thumbnails, each resembling the other, why would you not try to make something that looks and feels and sounds unlike anything else?
Yeah.
To me, if I were to spend shitloads of money on a project, I'm only going to spend it on the thing that no one else is doing, as opposed to I'm going to spend it on the thing that everyone is already doing and watching, and therefore it's less risky. I'm like, okay, if you think that's a good strategy, fine. But I'm in the other market. I'm going to make something that is so unique, so original, so different, and also so essential, hopefully, in the way it comes across, that people will feel, you know what, I'm going to do this because this feels like it actually values me as a unique individual, and it also thinks of itself as a unique thing, and that to me feels special.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat one of your tweets back to you now, which I think sums up what you were just saying brilliantly here, where in the absence of realism, the player questions nothing, pure experience, play and feeling, which when I read that, when you tweeted that out a few weeks ago, it really struck me as like that sums up exactly the appeal with these sorts of games. You don't need to strive for hyperrealism in VR, which is kind of what everyone wants. You know, we want that. At one side, we want the games like Horizon that are just going to be really realistic and amazing to look at. But on the other side, actually give us something. Just strip it back and give us something very pure and that give us that flow state.
Yeah, but it's funny because you've got cinema verite, right? Which so where the French school of cinema, which later on was sort of adopted by sort of the Danes, especially in the Swedes and Lars von Trier and others, this idea of this hyper-realism in performance style, you know, shaky cams, and then America sort of took it in their own direction with mumblecore films, etc. And you take a look at that stuff and you go like, okay, you're going for realism, so therefore you're also going to look at the sort of minutiae, the sort of day-to-day sort of normalcy of humans' lives, and try and dramatize that, but not too much, you know. But you'll find the drama in unemployment, or a little quarrel here, or this one feeling. And so if I look at a game that's trying to mimic realism, I want to see human behavior. Mm-hmm. And yet, the more realistic the games look, the less human the writing is.
Very, very good.
Very often.
It's a terrible disconnect. And it's an incredible shame, because I think games, firmly believe, I know games are the ultimate art form. There is no greater art form in the world than video games. It is the culmination of hundreds of years of art. And it combines all of the art forms into one. It's the ultimate art form. This is undeniable. And yet, games don't get it. Like, the people that make them still think that we're making product and content and whatever other nonsense the tech assholes tell us to do.
There's an odd, there's a kind of reverence for cinema amongst games, and you even see it in the awards shows and things like that. It's almost like, wow, we've got this Hollywood actor come in to give away an award at our games awards show, and it's like, this is a bigger industry. This is much more forward thinking than cinema at the moment. It's a growing thing, and it's almost like
but I don't know if it's forward thinking. But that's exactly.
Well, I think when the way that you're talking, it seems like it, and people like yourself.
I think it's
in the indie space at least.
I think I don't think the people that are making the games are forward thinking yet. I wish they were. I think most people making games aren't even thinking. It's true. I mean, we talk about intellectual property, and I can count the games that have any intellect at all, like, two fingers each year, which is weird, kind of, I think, because IP is being bandied about everywhere, and it's like, okay, maybe interactive property, but whose property? I don't know, but it's a strange time. We have yet to embrace our power, I think, and our essence, and the incredible impact that we have on society, because people spend shitloads of time inside games, right? Yes. More time than with any other medium in the world, and yet we're killing it. We're killing time, and that's an act of murder.
And with The Last Worker, you're clearly saying something. So how do you think? What do you think the reception to that is going to be? How do you feel like people are going to take that? Are you looking forward to seeing how people react to that, and that sort of sense of, oh, we can say things, we can make a point with our games. Maybe we should try that as well.
I absolutely think so, because I think any piece of art, even the ones that Ubisoft makes and denies it, is political. Like, anything that you put out into the world and spend years working on is a statement. But if you decide to make something that is quote unquote about nothing, you decide that saying nothing is important. And if you feel that saying nothing is important, you may be a fascist. Maybe. I'm just putting that up there, because I
feel like I need to say something now. Carry on.
No, but if you want to pump a product into people's homes, it's going to use up about 40, 50, 60 hours of their time, and you go out of your way in order to please your future investors from non-democratic countries, that your games are about nothing. Jesus, all right. So you literally want to ensure that people that engage with your content feel nothing, think nothing, talk about nothing. Really? That's your goal? Like, I can't even imagine the worst dictators in history saying this kind of shit. I want you to not think ever. It's fucked up. So it's like, it's very weird. And we're accepting that.
I do think there is a little glimmer of hope, though, in the fact that you're seeing a lot of these live service games tank quite quickly. And I'm not saying that's a positive thing for the hard-working souls that put those games together. But it is a bit of a pushback, and people saying we want something more substantial rather than just here's 1,000 hours of the same thing over and over again pumped into your eyeballs. And I think there is a bit of hope in the VR space, especially where it's taking it back to that, as we said, those arcade roots, or exploring different ways to put across a narrative that we maybe haven't even thought about before.
What's
and
ironic,
because it is niche as well, it's like you can afford almost to play with the parameters a little bit more because you're not trying to hit a massive audience.
And there are no things that have been proven to work yet. Not really. Like, I mean, Beat Saber, sure, but it's like there's nothing. There are no rules, and if there are no rules, there's no one to tell you what they should be. And so, because I mean, AAA games in the flat space or whatever are still Tomb Raider 30 years later, right? Or whatever. I mean, we're still playing Tomb Raider all the time with better graphics and in the HD remake every year. Essentially, every game is an HD remake of Tomb Raider, actually, when you think about it, in AAA. And, which is fine. If people really want that, that's all right. But I don't, personally, because I'm bored by it. But to me, it is just, I just want to feel that the people that have made it wanted to make more than a product. And I don't necessarily, like, The Last Worker is about something, but to me, indeed, to answer your question, is like, I just wanted to inspire conversation. That's what The Last Worker is about. And C-Smash is about inspiring feeling and just feeling good. I just want to make people feel good because the world sucks right now. It sucks so much. And so I don't want to bombard them with neon lights and noise and Green Day and other bullshit. But I just don't. I want to give them something that they feel good inside of, that they feel really genuinely cool inside of, something that isn't trying to sell something to them, something that doesn't say like, oh, look, this has a big target audience attached to it, and therefore, like, it's because that stuff is an attack on our individuality, right?
Yeah, and I guess the difference with what you're doing in reimagining Cosmic Smash is you're not saying, well, this massive selling game, there's a huge audience for it, therefore if we just tweak it a little bit, put some HD graphics on it, it's going to fly off the shelves. It's clearly it was a cult game to begin with. You've taken it now to a niche platform as well. Yeah. So clearly, you're not just saying this stuff, you clearly believe in it. But I guess just for the development of C-Smash, how has that been? How has it been translating something that was 2D and albeit looked perfect for VR even back then? How has that been?
It was 3D.
Oh, so on a flat screen, with 3D graphics. But how's that been sort of converting that and taking advantage of the technology? What's been the challenges and the advantages?
I don't know. I think it's been a pretty natural. I mean, because already back in 2001, I felt like it should be a VR game, genuinely, because I was so freaking cross that they didn't release the SEGA VR headset. I would genuinely sometimes wake up in a sweat and curse the gods. But if you look at the SEGA VR headset, it's incredible how ahead of its time. Have you ever seen pictures of it?
No.
Just Google SEGA VR. Just do it now. I need to hear your reactions right now. SEGA VR, 1993. Do it.
Let's have a look.
Look
Live
at it.
Reactions.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's cool.
Look at it.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it could come out today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want one. No.
Exactly.
Alex, you'll probably buy
I'll
one.
find one.
It even has the sort of little turn wheel thing that
Wow.
fastens the thing on the back. The thing that Quest didn't even have at first. They had to release that a year later.
That's incredible.
That's what we're talking about. So when Cosmic Smash came out in 2001, I was like, this is a VR game. Knowing already that I knew already back then, of course, that Virtua Racing and other titles had already been in development for VR. Like, this was all happening. And then you look at Tetsuya Mizuguchi, who had made Res and, of course, Space Channel 5 at the same time. He's the other lunatic that I know who made and fucking released 2 games at the same time. So maybe I'm just trying to imitate him in that way. But what was amazing about Tetsuya is that he was always about experience. And he was always about what he pursues, which is synesthesia. And he did that with Sega Rally, right? Because he produced Sega Rally, which is still the greatest freaking arcade racer of all time. And the guy who directed Sega Rally was a guy called Kenji Sasaki. Kenji Sasaki, who then founded Sega Rosso at Sega, and then made Cosmic Smash.
Right. Okay. See the lineage.
And Initial D and a bunch of other cool shit. And Kenji, who's a friend now, is because I wouldn't have dared make this license-based game if I didn't get the blessing of one of its creators. I couldn't, because I would be so utterly gutted if someone did that to something I'd made 20 years later.
And are they providing input on the process development, or are they hands off?
Sasaki-san had bought a VR2 and will be playing the demo next week, but I've been sending him screenshots and videos and other things over the last...
So how nervous are you that there's a demo going out next week and there's going to be this huge... There's a lot of anticipation for the demo, I feel like, and there's going to be a lot of takes online about it, and people will be playing it. And how does that make you feel?
I feel very excited because it's freaking fun.
It looks fun.
And I'm this sounds really weird, but it's really good. It's really
Fantastic. I love that.
Brilliant.
Confidence.
It's a really freaking good game. It just feels like a game. Like it feels like a game. Like a
Good.
fucking game. And you go in there and you feel good and you have fun. And you do it either alone, you feel really good alone, and you don't feel lonely in it because it doesn't fucking try to sell you shit all the time. And it doesn't objectify you all the time. It doesn't try to fucking kill you all the time. It just makes you feel good. And then when you meet up with someone else in there, you feel even better. Because then, and your whole body is inside of it. It's not just like floaty hands and shit. It's like your whole body, at a super fast frame rate. And you're playing either alone or against another person. In the full game, not in the demo yet, but in the full game, there's also co-op modes where you get to actually play alongside another person, shoulder to shoulder, and have this incredible fucking time together with voice chat at the same time.
That sounds fantastic, because we all downloaded there's a game Demio that comes out where you can play it cooperatively and you're all sat around a board game table, and I was kind of expecting us to be able to see each other, but all you can actually see are the hands and sort of a pair of glasses that represent each player. But for me, to be in a VR space with someone else alongside you and to be able to hear them with the 3D audio, to be able to hear where they're coming from, that just seems like such a great social experience that we haven't really seen enough of yet.
No, it's funny because, I mean, the thing that's amazing about Ryan and the team at Wolf and Wood is that he is a very humble and silent pioneer in VR. But without Ryan, a lot of the mechanics that we now take for granted wouldn't exist. Because Ryan doesn't go about it with if we just incrementally added this thing, but then had some really good graphics, then, he doesn't approach things like that. He goes what is the feeling that I want to go for? What is the essence of this experience? How do I make this work? So if you take a look at his first, A Chair in a Room, Greenwater, you could be in a boat, and and you now see that in Horizon, and people are like, oh, it's incredibly innovative. And you go did that almost a decade ago now, it feels like. You could lean, you could just tilt your head, and your boat would start moving in the water. He in Hotel R&R, which came out on PSVR 1 and PC 3 years ago. You have a whole body inside of it, and you're smashing up a hotel room in this sort of crazy arcade experiences, and it's hilarious. It's a fucking awesome game, and. And so, in The Exorcist, Legion VR, this was the seminal horror game before Resident Evil came out in VR. So he's utterly brilliant. And there was a point to my babble, other than talking about how good Ryan is that indeed the idea of in The Last Worker. You are a whole body inside of it. You don't have floaty hands. You feel completely at one with not just the characters, the body, but the story as well. Because to me, that's essential. Yeah. Like, if we're talking about VR as being the next level in technological advancement, then why should we take steps back in our ambition? So we have to go further. Because otherwise there will just be a tech demo.
Yeah, and I have seen a few of those already in my brief time with PSVR 2. Okay, so I guess finally to wrap up, let's imagine
already.
Well, you're a busy man. You got to get back to work, sunshine. Imagine a world where get yourself another gin and tonic. By all means. Imagine a world where C-Smash does just light shit up and people are loving it, and it does become the defining VR experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sony then come to you and say, you're a genius, here's a blank check, what are you going to do with it? What would be your next step if you had that almost infinite budget, infinite time, infinite resources? What do you think you would do with it? Or if you could pick an existing IP to work with?
Existing IP, I won't say, because I don't really like existing IPs very much. But if I did like an existing, but if I did like existing IPs, an existing IP, it would probably be an obscure one. If I were to mention it now, people are like, "Ooh, there's a business model now. We have to, bring back an obscure thing in VR. That's the thing to do." Because so I'm gonna keep that one in my sleeve because maybe I have a couple of things cooking there. But my next game, I think I mentioned a bit earlier, but I want to take things up a notch. I want to show that VR is because I don't care about the technology, because I don't give a shit. Like, it's like, to me, technology is natural, right? It just happens to be evolving alongside us because we are evolving it alongside us. The first cave painting exists because of technology. Video games are not unique to this thing. The reason we're here is because of technology. Like, we are useless unfurry animals. We need clothing and other shit in order to fucking exist for a day. That's how useless we are. But at the same time, our uselessness has made us inventive. I mean, we've understood that we have to fucking figure out how do we work with this bullshit that we were given, this ridiculous fucking concoction, this sort of weird wriggling on 2 feet.
Tell me about it.
It's ridiculous. So, and it's kind of remarkable that humans feel superior to nature, when in fact nature is fine without the tech. We're the ones who've been cursed to have to invent shit to keep living. But the reason art, we're aware of the first ever piece of art, is because of tech. Someone had to invent the flame or discover how to make it, how to recreate it, how to not set themselves alight while doing it. How many unfinished cave paintings before the first one? Like, just fucking self-immolation for like 5,000 years until finally someone. And then someone had to sort of like come up with the pen, the pencil, the scraping tool, whatever. And so, because caves are dark, man, so you have to bring light into them to even do anything inside of them. So it's tech. Yep. And once you're aware of that, you realize, you know what? fuck you, Elon Musk. Actually, you didn't invent this stuff. You don't own this stuff. Tech is not just open source. It is part of us. It's our spider web. That's what we do. Right? And so VR is just an even better web, and we've learned how to weave it finer and more intensely. And it's not just a physical web anymore. It's a mental one. We're now weaving mental fucking landscapes. It's fucking incredible what this is. And so, and instead of fucking taking advantage of people stealing their data or like usurping their democracies and the other shit that some tech lords might be doing, we have this unique opportunity now to inspire and to bring change through the most immersive, most physical, most emotional piece of art ever invented, or art medium ever invented. And so we can do that, and we will be able to do that. And the people that do that are going to change the world.
What a note to end on there.
Change the world. Make it a better place.
I mean, when you put it like that.
And for me.
Oh, God.
I don't know whether to cut that.
Not quite the same key
right.
change. No.
But when he puts it like that, I mean, God, no pressure other VR developers now, because that's what we're expecting now. Make sure you do something with your games, please.
I don't think I've ever felt more sold in VR than I have after that 45 minutes. Like, it was incredible just to listen to everything I had to say, and then just and then you're sitting alone, and he's like, "Yeah, and I'm making a film with John Malkovich." Like, yeah, wow. Like, it's like,
I mean, are you not?
Incredible, man.
Who isn't? Come on.
Who's not doing
No,
that?
really, like, super passionate guy, and made me feel very inferior ever thinking I'm any sort of creator whatsoever. It's just like, okay, this guy is actually changing things and doing stuff against the grain and being brave, almost like out of necessity rather than just deciding to be. It's almost like, well, of course I'm not just going to do all the bullshit that everyone else is doing. I'm just going to do something completely original because that's what I have to do.
We need far more of that.
Absolutely.
Wow, it made me feel like, God, the state of modern gaming is very bleak, really, isn't it? When you think every game out there is just made by a publisher who's just thinking, right, how can we monetize this and make as much money? How can we sell as many copies of this game? How can we tick so many boxes so that people want to go out and buy it? And he's obviously come at it from a completely different angle to say, no, what is the thing that I want to say? Who gives a shit if it sells? What do I want to say, or how do I want to make people feel? And then I'll create that.
Yeah, and I think
that is a very... Go on.
And I was just going to say, I think that was a very interesting point I took from it. It was about taking that approach to development as well as, what am I wanting you to feel here? What do we want? What emotion do we want to invoke? How do we want you to feel? And saying, right, how do we achieve that? And I was saying, this is what we can do. That is what we can do. What can we do with that? And taking that complete kind of different approach in terms of, this is what we want to achieve and what we want you to feel, and let's find a way of doing it, rather than just saying, well, this is all the things we can do and what do we do with that. I think it's just incredibly refreshing to hear that approach to development.
Yeah, it's refreshing and it's exciting, right? Because you think like these two things converging, VR and then that indie mindset, it is kind of like, sky's the limit for creativity. I'm losing my voice. I'm getting emotional. Someone else take over.
It's also making me feel like we're coming into this now at a really interesting time, because the medium's been around for, say, one video game generation, and the developers out there have been working out how to do things. They've been working out motion and movement and cameras and what's fun in VR, what's not fun in VR, what works and what doesn't. And it's kind of, they've got all that out of the way with, and now it's like, right, okay, we've got down the basics, the building blocks of what we need. Now, how can we evolve the medium? How can we start to say things and be more interesting?
Look forward to what we're seeing. I'm definitely like, I know it might have sounded quite cliche when I said I'm really looking forward to The Last Worker, but I am genuinely really looking forward to The Last Worker. I think that's going to be a story told incredibly well, and I think having come off of other narrative experiences recently, like Before Your Eyes, which we kind of touched on within there, and crying my eyes out at that game, unashamedly to say crying my eyes out at that game, it shows you what a VR experience can and probably should be.
Does that make you feel, though, if those experiences are going to be few and far between? It's like when you're playing the other stuff, when you're playing the Zombieland, which is just an arcade shooter. And nothing wrong with that. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. But you're playing those sorts of games that you think, oh man, I want some more of the good stuff.
Make me cry, damn it.
Make me feel something. Yeah, make me involve me in the story.
I definitely think there's a place for both, because I think it's also what we touched on there. It's that nostalgic experience from those taking that 360 back to those arcade days and those early pure gaming experiences to a certain extent, rather than before they became bloated with everything, before they tried to sell you everything, before just that pure fun arcade gaming experience. There's plenty of space for that as well, and plenty of enjoyment for it.
I hadn't quite made that association in my head that so many of the things that I'm enjoying on PSVR2 are very reminiscent of that experience of going to the Trocadero as a kid and running around the arcades and playing on all these things, whether it's a light gun game, a driving game. It's just stripping it back to that fun gameplay mechanics. And that's
I thought I was being really clever in the interview when I drew the parallel between arcade and VR, and then he was like, "Oh, so you read my tweet?" No, I thought I had an original thought for the first time in my life. But, yeah, it's a very cool thing. So if anyone listen is interested in those two games, so we've got C-Smash VRS demo is dropping on PSVR2 23rd of March. And then the Last Worker full release is coming out on the 30th of March. So it's a busy month. And then we should see C-Smash VRS some point this year. A little birdie tells us.
Exciting couple of weeks.
Yep. Good stuff. Well, I think that is a good place to end episode 5 of Cross Button VR. 5 already now in the bag. Amazing. So thank you everyone for listening. Thanks again to our patrons for supporting us. Do hope you'll stick with us in the coming weeks. We've got lots more exciting things to be talking about. I've been your host, Laurie. These two, I've been Ben and Alex, and we'll see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
I always cut the bit out when me and Alex say bye anyway. But bye.
You've got to end a call with goodbye. And then goodbye, I guess. See you maybe.
All right.
Just bye.
Thanks for listening.
No, you
Bye
hang
now.
up.